This is just an example of some of the damage we've seen out here. Huge trees. There's not one tree, but two trees right here. We're just about 3 hours from kickoff here in the Superdome. It's pretty quiet right now, but Clemson's Pep Band is across the field from us. We do know that those workers were out on the side of Augusta Road surveying a washout. I'm going to turn this camera around and show you guys the very active scene that is going on out here. And sped this way. Eventually, that vehicle came to a stop right here where I'm standing. And if you look down here, you can still see the skid marks where the vehicle stopped. Now, from here, the two suspects got out of the vehicle, fled into that wooded area. Once they got out here, they saw black smoke billowing from that building. Here's what they think happened. The second stolen trailer was right behind this first trailer you see here. And if you look directly below you, you can see the tire tracks. That's about 4.5 years that she's going to be spending behind bars. But take a look. We're sitting in front of the federal courthouse right now. We can't get any further than where these bars are, but she came out the doors of federal court just about an hour ago.
That's where we find our Columbia County reporter, Brooke Zauner now. And Brooke, just really a shocking development today with this story unfolding.
A shock to the family, a shock to the community, and really just a heartbreaking end to this story. Now, investigators say Scott Matthews' sister lived at this home behind me with her husband. That's exactly where the accident happened. You can still see the spray paint and the markings that investigators made out here.
But the car never stopped.
Tears streaming down her face.
They kept going, and they left my brother there.
Catherine Hobson begged for answers.
I want the person to be found because I'm in the state of, I'm numb, but I am so angry.
10 days now since her brother, 24-year-old Scott Matthews, was allegedly struck by a hit-and-run driver.
We heard the car hit him. We come around the corner to see my brother sliding from here to here.
Georgia State Patrol says that was a cover-up.
What the witness stated was inconsistent with the injuries to the body from the vehicle.
From the beginning of the investigation, Trooper Baron Parnell says evidence was not adding up. There were no pieces of the vehicle left behind, only a blood stain on the road and practically no witnesses.
The video surveillance that I got, basically, I didn't see any vehicles exiting that area during that time frame.
That led investigators to believe maybe it was not a hit and run.
It was inconsistent because the victim did not have bruising on his body. He had trauma to the back of his head.
Now investigators say the story makes more sense.
We were playing beer pong, having a good time. He was kicking, he was beating all of us in beer pong.
Investigators say later that night, Catherine was moving her vehicle from a garage when her brother Scott jumped on the hood, startling her. Investigators say that's when she hit the brakes and Matthews fell off and hit his head on the pavement.
They explained to us that they were afraid is the reason why they hid the truth.
You might not expect a feed store to be smack dab in the middle of Evans, Georgia. Donnie Brown didn't either when he opened this store 4 decades ago.
I had thought I had made a big mistake and it was just country, but that's the way Evans was. And then all of a sudden, everybody followed me.
That was 1979. Donnie followed in his father's footsteps, selling animal feed, and the transformation from then to now.
That was the layout of the old store.
Well, you'd hardly recognize it.
It's changed so much over the years, and I've seen it change.
Brown Feed and Seed made itself an identity, known as one of the first stores in Evans, and also the home of Big Boy's Pond. Big Boy, as in the resident gator.
This is where Big Boy used to come up right there, and everybody would feed him.
Over the years, he's collected antiques.
Now, we have a lot of signs.
Some unique to Columbia County, even the original store sign that went up 40 years ago.
That's a master's picture. I hate to let it go.
But all of it, from the metal signs to the replica of Big Boy, is going, closing a chapter that lasted 4 decades.
And my customers are great. They've all been real good to me over the years, and I couldn't have made it without them.
What became a simple truth 40 years ago is the same truth now. If you didn't know where to go, simple. Just ask Donnie Brown.
I'm not going anywhere. I'll be right here, and you'll still see me.
Less than 24 hours after a hit and run leaves 59-year-old Charles McDaniel dead, the suspect, 28-year-old George Pacheco, turned himself in.
I would just say he was somewhat forthcoming.
Traffic camera video shows Pacheco driving a white SUV at the intersection of Wrightsboro Road and Jimmy Dias Parkway around 6:32 that morning. Investigators believe that was moments before he hit and killed McDaniel. At 6:36 a.m., if you look closely, you can see the suspect's vehicle again, this time with a headlight out on the passenger side of the vehicle. Investigators believe this was after the hit and run. Since Pacheco turned himself in, investigators say there's no way of knowing how easily this case could have been solved if he had not.
We had a real good idea of what we were looking for, and so, you know, we'll never know, but we're glad it's over.
But we're learning this isn't Pacheco's first run-in with law enforcement, and it's also not his first hit-and-run accident. According to court records from Richmond County, Pacheco was charged with leaving the scene of an accident, failure to maintain lane, and a hit-and-run back in 2016. That left him on probation and a more than $500 fine. While those previous citations and criminal history have no effect on this case, the Columbia County Sheriff's Office said those could come into play later down the line.
That could come into play once his case goes to court, if he's found guilty, then possibly during the sentencing phase, but that's quite a ways down the road.